Hello and welcome to the Law According to podcast. My name is Mike Minnis of 2M Legal, and this is the podcast that tracks the careers of legal professionals. This week, I'm delighted to be joined by Emily Jackson of Dutton Gregory Solicitors. Emily is halfway through her training contract with Dutton Gregory's, and she talks about her career to date, the challenges she's had to overcome, and she's taken a slightly less conventional route into law. So I feel her story will resonate with a lot of people who are maybe in a similar sort of situation or of approaching that situation where you're applying for training contracts. I think it's a great story. I think you'll really enjoy this one. If you do enjoy our podcast, please like, subscribe, hit the bell button to be alerted of future episodes. This is the Law According to Emily Jackson. Hello and welcome to the Law According to, and this week I am pleased to be joined by Emily Jackson from Dutton Gregory Solicitors. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you.
So, Emily, this is the podcast about legal careers. You are a trainee solicitor at Dutton Gregory, so it's great to hear the point of view of somebody who is currently going through those kind of challenging periods. So, as I mentioned before we went live, this is all about you and your story. So let's start at the very beginning. Always a good place to start a story. So why did you choose law as a career?
Well, I've always been interested in law as I was growing up. Kind of, you see things on TV, you watch the news, and you think, oh, that's so interesting how they kind of argue these legal points or how laws are changed. But I didn't really think of it as a career at first. I just thought, oh, it's one of those things you're interested in. And then I went along with my older brother to his sixth form options evening, and he was interested in hearing the law talk. So we went along to that. I sat there and they were explaining, the difference between a solicitor and a barrister and kind of the career options in law and how to get there. And I thought, well, this is fascinating. Like, this is actually something you can do. And then I went along the next year to the talk myself, and I was like, yeah, this is definitely what I want to do. And then applied at A-level, and it was all from there, really.
That was it. You were hooked at that stage, were you?
Yeah, I mean, my primary kind of focus was that I always had this sense of wanting to help people and seeing, justice be accessible to people. And so that was kind of my main motivation, was to help people.
Okay. Do you have a particular area of law that you're more focused towards moving into?
I mean,
To be decided.
I mean, it's early days still. I'm halfway through my training contract, but my favorite so far has been medical negligence, because it has that aspect of knowing that you're making a difference and really helping people who, have had these traumatic events in their lives happen, and you're helping get them some justice for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so as you say, it is relatively early days so far, but what sort of challenges have you had to overcome to date?
I would say the first would be, making that decision to move into a career in law and start that process, because there's kind of that stigma around law that it's only for, wealthy people, and it's not as accessible to those of us from, a working class background. I think that was the first challenge mentally, to say to myself, no, you can do it. There are so many other people like you who have managed to accomplish this. You can be one of them as well. So I think that was kind of the first hurdle. And once I got past that, I was like, okay, we can do this. And then I would say it's kind of the whole process. You have to really acknowledge that this isn't an easy career path. It's you're, locking yourself into at least 6 years before you're qualified. So you have to prepare yourself for a long journey before you kind of see that end goal come to fruition.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done before you get to the kind of almost just establishing yourself, isn't it?
Yes, and for me, I kind of took it step by step. So I was like, okay, let's do A levels. Right, now let's go and do the undergrad law degree. Okay, now let's go and do the LPC. Now let's go get some experience and get a training contract. So I think if you break it up into those smaller stages, it makes it more manageable and also allows you to kind of celebrate yourself as you're going through it, rather than just seeing it as this end goal of solicitor. It's like, wow, I've actually achieved all of these things already before I'm even qualified.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it is, like you say, it is a long journey, and it's good that you broke it down in that way. How difficult, because a lot of people find it quite tricky actually securing a training contract. How was that process for you?
I was a little bit different to other people. I didn't actually start applying for training contracts in my second, third year like most people do. I didn't have any legal experience myself. I didn't have the time during my university studies to get that legal experience because I was working 2-3 other jobs just to get myself through university. So I kind of went the route of, well, these other jobs are giving me those skills as well. You know, I was working at an estate agent's, I was working in a restaurant as well. And it's those client care skills that you pick up from there that are so transferable that I didn't think at the time were useful. But now I look back at them and I think, oh, I'm so glad I did that. It gave me such good skills that I brought with me. So I joined Dutton Gregory in 2021 as a legal assistant in the residential conveyancing department to get that first-hand legal experience. And then I kind of went through the internal recruitment process. The first time around, I was unsuccessful, which now I think is the best thing that could have happened to me, because the firm worked with me to improve those kind of soft skills and make sure that I was ready. I think had I gone through the process at that time, I would have found it more daunting and, you know, wouldn't have been as successful as I am now. The second time around, I interviewed, I was successful, was offered a training contract and started just a few months later.
So that probably didn't feel like it at the time. It was kind of, it was the right move for you to be delayed, as it were.
Yeah, there was a brief moment, obviously, where I was a little bit like, oh no, this has kind of like derailed my life plan.
Yeah.
But they explained, you know, we're going to put on this training academy for you. We're going to work with you to improve these skills together because we are committed to helping you be the best. And at that point, I was like, oh, okay, this is fine. Like, they're going to help me and make sure that I then have those skills for the rest of my career. So I think it was so beneficial to do it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like the perfect decision, doesn't it? So now you're obviously you're not yet established, but you're starting to establish yourself in your career. What is it? You mentioned about medical negligence and how that kind of helps people earlier. But what is it about the law sector that you kind of really enjoy so far?
I think it's just how every department is so different. You think kind of, oh, you're just going to go into another department and it's going to be the same thing, just a different law. But it's so different, the way that you know, communicate with your clients, the way that you run a matter from start to finish is so different. And it allows you to develop skills that you didn't even realize kind of existed or that you wanted to improve. And it's just invaluable experience being able to go around to those different departments.
Yeah, just picking up different things from different people, and I suppose different people within those departments give you different insights as well, don't they? You pick up little things from their techniques and what have you. Okay, so obviously you've been through the stages, and as you say, you've ticked the boxes as you've gone through the stages. I imagine there were moments whereby you probably thought, oh, as you mentioned, kind of this has derailed my plan. You've overcome that, and obviously Dutton and Gregory helped you with that because of they put a plan in place and kind of and now it's all coming to fruition. What sort of advice would you give to somebody who's currently in that situation, maybe questioning their career choices and whether law is actually right for them? Obviously, you've been through it very, very recently. So what advice would you give to them?
Well, definitely, if I could speak to my younger self, it would just be that, perseverance is key. There are going to be setbacks. That's inevitable. Don't take it personally. It's, there's every setback is a place to improve. And when I was younger, obviously I didn't have that kind of hindsight. So you can kind of feel a bit down and, oh, is this for me? If I'm, struggling at this stage, it's just going to continue. But that's not the case at all. It's just a matter of perseverance and kind of saying to yourself, I can do this, and just remind yourself of that, because I said the same things to myself and I made it in the end.
Yeah, it's having that mental strength.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about your challenges, we've talked about the kind of advice and things. What have been your successes? What have been the real highlights of what you've done so far in your law career?
I mean, there's just the feeling of getting your first job in law is indescribable, because at that point you've got your foot in the door, you've broken down the barriers, and you kind of have that sense of, I've made it, like I've made it in the door and nothing can stop me now. And at the firm, we have so many opportunities to get involved with things that are personal to us. Being able to go to universities and go to their law fairs and kind of help inspire the next generation to keep going, I would say is what I would class as a success, because it's so important to me to help the new generation of me's make it up through. And I feel like sometimes people just need that little push, and they'll say afterwards, thank you so much, that's really what I needed to hear. So for me, that is special, and I'm glad that I can help people in that way.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's excellent. And like you said earlier, there's many people out there who don't necessarily feel law is accessible for them because of maybe their background or their preconceived ideas that lawyers are born into the law sector, their parents were lawyers, etc., and so therefore it's just a natural progression. But yeah, I speak to many people who have come from a similar sort of route that you have, working class family, and they've, whether it be later in life, some people later in life, not until they're in their 20s, they've decided, actually, do you know what, law, I think this could be something I could do. Or even some people I know knew from the age of 10 that this, this is, I really like the look of law and it's going to be a career for me. But again, they've still come from that working class background. And I think it is much more accessible nowadays, isn't it? As long as you have the right mindset and the right mental approach.
Yeah,
excellent.
I think the SQE has definitely helped with that. I mean, when I went for my LPC, the course was 13,600, which was, an astronomical amount to ask of a 21-year-old. And I was fortunate that the university that I went to allowed you to add a master's on for free, which then allowed you to get a postgraduate loan. But the loan itself for postgrads doesn't even cover the course fees. And then there's no maintenance loan. So you need to kind of bridge the gap in the fees yourself, plus support yourself whilst you're there. And it's incredible that I can say now that I have a master's degree as well, but it's that extra added workloads to be able to just get that loan. Obviously, the SQE fees are much lower now. So it kind of is making law more accessible, that whilst you may still have to take out a loan, it will be a smaller loan than what people before have had to take out. So I think it's great that the law is now becoming more accessible, and they've realised that these fees were, extortionate, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's that's the thing, isn't it? As once you get over the mental block of can I move into law, it's then you've then got another kind of challenge of, or you used to have that other challenge of, okay, well, you're going to go qualify, but by the time you qualify, you could leave with £52,000 worth of debt hanging over your head, and that's something to get around, isn't it? But what I find amazing is the fact that obviously you've done that, you have had these high fees, but you've worked 2 or 3 jobs as well at the same time to get you through that, which is no mean feat in itself, is it? Even if in my younger days I've worked in the kind of restaurant environment, that can be an incredibly stressful environment, considering it's you're serving people food or whatever, it's still quite a stressful environment. But then to have to come away, study, go and do another job as well, it's I think, congratulations, I think that's an amazing achievement, really, really good. Were there times during that period where you thought, wow, this is just too much?
Definitely. There were times, when I'd what felt like the longest week of my life, and then it was like up and at it again tomorrow. And you do have those moments where you think, oh my gosh, is this really worth this? Like, I could have picked a different career that didn't require so many years to qualify, and I could have been, on a full-time wage by now, establishing myself in that field with experience. So there are those moments of doubt where you think, is this truly worth it? And you have to say to yourself, yes, it is. Like, this is what I want to do. I know it is. And just kind of have to pick yourself up and do it all again. And, the kind of thing I told myself was, it's not going to be forever. Like, this isn't forever. There is a plan. There is a goal. We just have to stick it out for the time being.
Yeah, it's short term. You've got the light at the end of the tunnel, as it were. But,
definitely.
Which is great. And again, it's all about mental strength, because like you say, sometimes when you're actually in that, effectively in the trenches where you're working really hard, also studying as well, it makes it quite difficult. But I think that's really, really commendable that you've come through that. And I think as well, that's also where, when people who maybe haven't had such a privileged background have that challenge as well, because some people will obviously be funded through their university or whatever by parents or grandparents or whoever it may well be. And obviously you've not had that. So therefore you've had to go out, work 2 or 3 jobs at any one time whilst you're qualifying in a difficult sector to qualify in anyway. I think it's a great achievement. Well, I think that's a really good story, and I think it's good to hear from you that you've recently gone through those challenges and come through the other side. You've got yourself into a firm. I know Dutton's fairly well, and I know that they're very, very positive with their internal recruitment, also promoting from within. They're very, very ambitious as a law firm as well. So I think to establish yourself in a firm such as Dutton's is incredible as well. If anybody would like to get hold of you, Emily, how can they do that?
Yeah, so I'm on the website. You can find me on there, and it's got all my details for you to contact me. I'm also on LinkedIn, and if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to me through there.
Great. And if you've enjoyed this episode, why not like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then you'll get alerted about future episodes as well. Emily, thanks very much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I think it's a great story, and I think it will inspire many people who have been in or currently in similar sort of situations to what you've been. So thanks very much for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me.